story changes the way we treat people. But here's the problem, though. Are we even checking the story we have about people? And here's the other problem. Are we making up stories about people? So here's what's going on. First off, it's very common for people to quickly blame the other person if there's an issue going on between them and the other person. Number two, what's very common is to complain about the other person, complain about them to other people, to drag this complaint on from one day to the next day, from 1 week to the next week. You know those people, they just are constantly complaining, right? Number three, a common mistake is assuming that it's the other person that's 100% the issue. Number four, it's very common to make up a story about the other person. Like all of a sudden, you now know their life and you know what's going on. And so there's this opportunity to make up a story without ever checking if it's true or not. That's very common. Villainize. I don't know if that's how you spell villainize. I think I got close. Spell checker could not find it. So villainize, or turn somebody into a villain. You know, it's like if somebody does something, well, they've got to be evil or wicked, or they're just out to get me. It's a common mistake to villainize people, to turn them into monsters way too quickly. Okay, another common mistake is you tend to believe the stories you made up about the other person, even though it was a made up story. And then you start to actually believe the story. And now that affects the way you treat them and the way you talk to them, like changes you. And these are so common. I mean, over the years of coaching and coaching couples and coaching teams and coaching individuals, we could just check the box here that this is very common amongst people whenever they have a difficulty between them and another person. Now, these seem to be knee-jerk reactions to blame and complain, and to assume that it's the other person who's 100% to blame. These are very, how do you say it? I don't know how to actually say it, but it's like amongst people, it's like that's the go-to. Now, if you ever try to like have a different approach, you definitely stand out compared to most people. Now, I don't know if you understand this or not, but blame and complaining, it causes a lot of blindness. Yeah, that's what you're hearing me say, blindness. So let's put that on the wall here, everything. So this is blindness. Because whenever you are pointing your attention at the other person as though they are the one, or you're complaining and it's about the other person and what they did, or you're assuming that it's 100% their issue, that's where blindness comes in. And what you're actually blind to is your portion. What did you do? And I find this very interesting. Seriously, very interesting as I individually coach people over the years. I've had the chance of helping people improve their life. And when they can't personally improve, it's I know because they are not actually capable of looking at themselves. I mean, let's think about this. Personal development means you are working on yourself. And if I was working on a lawnmower, I would be looking at the lawnmower, and I would be taking apart the lawnmower to see what to fix about the lawnmower to make the lawnmower work better, right? Now, if I'm working on my personal development, that means I would need to look at me to see what needs to be fixed and adjusted and fine-tuned. Makes sense, right? you're going to work on something, you would need the ability to look at it and be able to pull the pieces apart so you can see what's not functioning well. So what I find is that there are people who get into personal development because they wanted to be a better person, and they don't do very well. And when they're not doing very well, it's because they have a hard time looking at themselves, because they spent most of their life looking at the other person as the reason their life is not okay. They look this way, not this way, right? They look outward. When something doesn't work, it's the kids. When something doesn't work, it's their spouse. It's their neighbor. It's their friend. It's this. It's their boss. It's their employee. It's always this outward pointing of why something's not working. Now, does that person, the outside person, have a part that they play? Sure. But are they 100% the reason? No, they're not. No, they have a percentage, but see, the part about personal development is, what percentage did I play in that failure or in that contentious moment? What part did I play? And there, you'd be surprised, but there's actually quite a high percentage of people who are stuck only looking outward, and they blame that person. They complain about that person. It's always this outward view, and they kind of like they forgot, or they just don't know how to look at themselves. Because if you really want things to improve, the only person you can really control is you, right? It's right here. And I know you know this, but I'm just going to call out the obvious. You're the only one who really you can get a grip on quickly and change a behavior. Somebody else, you can't change their behavior. You know, it takes time for their behavior to change, because they would have to want to change. I mean, you could try to change your employees' behavior, but if they don't like what you're doing, they just quit. It's so, you can try to change your kids, but you know what happens there? They just quit talking to you, and then they avoid you. They don't want to be around you because you keep trying to change them to make you happy. See, that's what people do, is when they can tell somebody's trying to just fix them and change them, they're just like, I'm out. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to be around you. So they avoid you. They don't come to you. They don't ask you questions. And so that's one of those little signals to go, wow, you're out there trying to fix everybody else. And how's that working for you? Trying to fix everybody else. Is it sticking? Is it happening? Like everybody's following your instructions? No, they don't. They don't. Because you play a role. You are part of the equation. And what happens is, if you're a leader, a parent, or just you as an individual around your friends and the people you're around socially, if you don't change, things are not going to change. They're just not. So what we want to look at here, is how to open up your eyes to see what's going on between you and other people. Because wow, if we could help you find some small ways to adjust, God, you could do so much better in your connection with people. You actually would have more mercy on people, more compassion, more understanding, more patience. Because when you work on yourself, you realize how hard it is to change. And your expectation that everybody else should be able to change like that will be a little bit more gentle, because you understand. You've tried to change yourself like that, and it didn't happen. See, you can always tell when somebody doesn't work on their real inside, when they expect other people to change like that, because it's not possible. People don't just all of a sudden change. It takes time. It takes work. It takes reminding. And you have to remind that child 100 times. You have to remind that employee 100 times. You support your spouse 100 plus 100 plus 100 times, because it takes time to change. But people who are not about understanding change, they're going to just look themselves, they're going to see other people and just expect instant change. You can tell that person is definitely relationship blind.